Hello, everyone.
Hello, hold on one second.
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
I'm alive and amazing.
Good. Good.
I am one of those things.
Good to hear. I am going through puberty because my computer has decided to make that so.
Eh, I had a paused live broadcast because hearing myself, it was very confusing.
Yeah. Well, you don't normally converse with yourself on delay?
Wasn't that like I've heard of that being used as a method to like disrupt crowds or something like that, to take like some sort of like audio receiver and like a microphone or like a I don't know, some sort of giant speaker that goes back, and all it does is just takes what people are yelling and just sort of like sends it back to them with a delay, and that's a way to like get them to shut up. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does. It short
it,
circuits your brain a little bit.
Yeah,
my brain's always short circuited, so it's no problem.
well, especially now, right? Because of how much Secret World stuff that you've been putting out, I'm sure you are at least a little bit fried, right?
Well, getting the book to the finish line was the chore.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part. I mean, it just would. There was issues in the background that we finally got resolved, but, um,
Okay.
I mean, there's just some personal things that came up for different people on the team, and so it was really tough getting it across the finish line. But then we got everything's in, and like almost everything's all right here now. We're waiting on the limited covers to show up so we can approve those. Like here's the monster cards now. They look pretty good.
Okay. Okay.
I think they turned out really nice. And then the
Waffle.
Yeah, no, I'm
sub
working on it.
Waffle.
subclass
Waffle is
cards.
Waffle's moving around your camera a little bit.
Oh,
So what you're showing up, we don't necessarily see.
hmm. Like that. I don't.
There we
Yeah,
go.
right there. That's
Yeah,
good.
right there. There you go.
Nice.
There you go. So
Perfect.
that's
Okay.
the like the pre-gen card, not the pre-gen, but the subclass cards, and then the monster. Let's see. So
Sweet.
they turned out the quality on the cards. So the drawback to print on demand, which is unfortunately, well, and I say unfortunately in the sense that we always want to do better. But right now is when essentially when you do print on demand, it's like a giant photocopy machine.
Okay.
So if I move this way, then you can see me there, sort of, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and so the darkness, like some of the art we've done, we've learned now in the future we're going to do much brighter art. I mean, cool, dark, moody art's great, except for in print on demand. Some of the pictures are a bit darker than we would like. They're a little bit hard to see, but there's no way to fix that because we were first time making a book and we can't redo all the art to make that fix. There's a couple pictures that I would do different going in the future, much less dark and moody type stuff. Because unless we can get to standard print runs, that will
Right.
always be a little bit tough to show up. But these are things we're learning. It's our first major book. I mean,
Yeah.
386 page book is our first real big project. Before that, we did a couple of
Oof.
like 30-40 page things. So
Yeah,
um,
that's
And I was
it's a leap.
factor of 10. Factor of 10.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
let's just multiply that work times 10 and let's take it a whole lot of money and have a whole lot of people mad at us if we don't deliver. But other than that, we're fine.
Well, it's also the fact that yeah, it's almost 370 pages or whatnot, but it's just so jam packed full of stuff for lore and just everything is in there.
The first 100 pages or so is the lore and characters you can meet and such. Roughly, it's something like that. I don't have the exact page count. And
Hmm.
then you have making characters and the rules for that and all that such and how that kind of works out. And then you have all the D&D type rules that we also smashed in there as well. And then so yeah, it's a lot. And then we did a fair amount of monsters too. We actually I think put in a few more than we promised overall. Not
Nothing
everything is
wrong with that.
illustrated because we couldn't do art for everything, but we did a fair amount of art on that. We'd love to do more, but going forward we'll add more stuff as we go. So
So I was looking through the finished, because part of this is that you sent out on March 17th is the date that you sent out to all backers the final core rulebook of the PDF.
right.
Um, And so if you have that, you can go get it. You can, if you have the link, you put out an FAQ in case you didn't get the link. Like there was a there was an
Yeah,
update that you guys posted that
yeah.
said,
There's a problem with somehow for whatever reason. Either it's probably me again. This is our first time delivering stuff, so the backer kit. I probably didn't select something correctly that did not deliver to the backer kit backers. I don't know for sure. This weekend when I am, because I do most of my work on the weekends, so everyone who's emailed me is like,
mm-hmm,
give me 2 weeks, because effectively that only gives me 4 days to figure it out, Saturday, Sunday, for 2 different weekends.
mm-hmm,
Because I can't really dig into this at night. Like I get I get off at 6. It's an hour drive home from work, dinner, shower, whatever, and then I got an hour and a half at night to do whatever I'm doing. So the weekends is when I focus on really getting stuff done. Till we make millions, and this is all I have to do.
I mean,
Oh
understandable,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, this is sort of your side project, really.
It is a side project in a sense. I'm trying. Everyone tells me don't get into this if you want to make money. Don't make games if you want to make money. And I don't agree that we can't make money. I'm just not going to get rich at it.
Right.
It's fair.
Um, Obviously, if I really tried hard to get, I have the email for the execs at Warner Brothers. I found the people who do toy distributions and such, whatever. And
Okay.
I tried really hard to get the rights to Scooby Doo, but they said not at this time, because that Kickstarter would have funded everything else, I'm sure. But that's a multi-generational IP that's been around for, imagine the Scooby Doo role playing game. I think I
As a
could have sold the hell
Scooby
out
Doo
of that.
tabletop.
I would have. It would have been huge, because you got, my mom could have seen when she was younger. Kid, my generation, next generation. It's got movies for multiple generations. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Secret World is, it's unfortunately not as big as it was, and so even with that, we had a massive response for a first time game maker. Well, as far as most people are concerned, first time game maker. We had a really big response. So I mean, imagine what something like a big IP would do for a small company, as far as that goes. But
Oh yeah.
we're super happy with the response from Secret World, and almost all the backers have been very understanding. If you were a little bit upset that they didn't get things as quick as they wanted or something like that, but I mean, I can understand why they're upset. They want it now. They're excited. They've had to wait a long time. We've had a fair amount of delays. Fortunately, it's all, we've got all, like I said, we got the cards now. We got the main book. We're just waiting on the limited covers to come in so I can approve them, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can start sending out the codes, and I can just stay on the weekends until everyone gets their stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, you're working with an IP that Secret World has it's not in its heyday. It's not in its
Well,
the Funcom has sort of put it on the back burner for their other projects, for Dune, for Conan Exiles, for
did it have a heyday though?
I think it
It
did.
did. There was
relative to the
I'm,
IP and
I'm
its
not.
size, it
I'm
had
not.
its heyday.
yeah.
I'm not trying to like shit talk it, but
Yeah.
I love the game, obviously, but
But it was, yeah, sort of always
it
a little
had a
bit
bad
niche.
launch that it
Yeah.
never really recovered from, and it's always had a steady influx and like a steady amount of people that just stuck with it, and a
Mhm.
steady influx of people trying it, and especially since it went free to play, right? There's even more people trying,
hmm
but there's a
Mhm.
pretty decent turnover. But I actually don't know. Okay, I will say it used to get updates, right? So maybe that would be a
Yeah.
payday when it had content coming out, but that didn't actually equate to like popularity or number of people playing it really. Like that was one of the problems why they went free to play is because they didn't sell enough of the DLCs to cover making them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they
Right?
sort
So
of had an
like
issue with that.
I'm
Yeah,
actually
Secret
not
World.
sure
Sorry, go
if
ahead.
it was I'm actually not sure if it was ever like spiked real high at a specific point
I wonder.
necessarily.
I guess Funcom has those numbers. I wonder when that point actually would be. Like when that point actually would be that there's a if there was like a peak.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff I think can be found. I think there's certain ways to get that information from Steam or whatever, at least from that, you know, it won't be like back when it first. You could see the current several years of it. However long it was on Steam, I guess.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
because
the
you can
problem
only
the problem
see
with that
the
is
Steam when it first came out of Steam, but there's like what 6 years
yeah, there was a long
beforehand.
delay
Yeah,
in
we wouldn't have
between
any of that. So
when they
Yeah.
actually launched on Steam. Yeah, so that's sort of like
Well,
so yeah,
there's
Steam
also
could have that, but
there's also the problem of like you don't have the Funcom launcher numbers. That's always been a problem, right? Is like
yeah,
even now, even with Legends, we have you can look at the Steam chart, but that doesn't tell you anyone that's playing not on Steam.
yeah. And most
Kind
people
of
who
a problem.
started playing not on Steam are probably still not playing on Steam. Like I'm not
right.
playing on Steam.
Well, what's funny is I've actually seen because technically I think you can convert either way, like once. So I think there's people have actually had a Steam account and converted to the Funcom account and said, fuck Steam, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, either way, the game is I think in a lot of ways the tabletop will serve it better than the video game can as far as what we can do with it. In some ways, it's a lot less expensive to create content for an RPG. Obviously, if we had like Wizards of the Coast budget, we could be knocking it out. But as a whole, I mean, I think we're going to be able to I hope we're going to be able to add a good amount of content to it over the next couple of years. They just renewed our contract with us, so
That's a
we
good
have
thing.
enough. Yeah, well, I wanted to secure that before we started worrying about the next couple of projects because we were good through all of next year pretty much still, and so I wanted to make sure that if we start to try to tell a story arc with sequential books, I don't want to get halfway through and go, another time you can't find out what happens at the end. Um,
Yeah, you get to a certain point and it's like, well, the story continues, but you're not gonna be able to know what it is.
Yeah.
we're never going to tell you. Because I do have a story arc in mind that now that we have that time, I'm going to see if I can get the overall arc approved with Funcom first, and then we're going to start to do the individual books working towards that story, which will take about 5 books. It doesn't have to, but we want to do like I've said many times before, a North America, uh,
hmm
Illuminati, Templar, Europe,
Yeah.
and kind of break it down by geography a little bit and so we can add some area to explore the rest of the secret world more in depth. I mean, that's why we highlighted Boston, Mumbai, and Paris in the book because we wanted to go to areas that are not really fully covered, and as we do this, we want to, more large cities that you haven't gone to, so you can explore how it's affecting different parts of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. To go to those places where the game itself has not gone. Yeah, absolutely. Or even that the game maybe might not even tend to ever go to, you know?
Well, and then that's the thing with the book. If we do a book that's say probably 150 to 200 pages going forward, what the size of the books will be as we expand the setting,
Mm.
and we can do in that 100 pages, since a lot of it's just your imagination, you don't need every detail. It's not generating dozens of models and city locations and all the work that has to go into that. We can just add quite a bit of detail into a book. 100 pages of lore for Europe obviously couldn't cover all of Europe, but we can cover massive more chunks that in a video game would cost much more and take much more time. That I mean, no video game can ever keep up with an RPG, provided you keep making the books as far as the total content you can give ideas for, because obviously the
hmm
GM has what's in their brain. They're the computer. You're playing against the GM, and not really. It's supposed to be cooperative in some sense, but you get my idea.
hmm
Unless you have a
Yeah,
mean GM who
absolutely.
likes to throw zombies at you till you die, um, which is totally legit because you can't die, more or less.
More or less. More or less. But
I
that is
Yeah,
something
mean,
that I
you
it's
do
more
can
of an
like.
die. It
inconvenience.
doesn't stop you.
Well, I think the ideal thing too is to, in some ways, would be to uh, focus. Sometimes throw stuff at the players that they yeah, right, Kender Mage, that they actually can't win against. Number one, because in a normal game when you do that, you kill the players and it's a TPK, no one has any fun, they're all dead, they have to make all new characters. In this
hmm
game, you show them that the world is dangerous, you can't always win, but you also have the good part that, hey, even if I do kill them all, they're not dead for
Right.
long.
Right. And that's it's sort of part of why I'm actually really excited about this prospect is because like part of the whole aspect of storytelling, as you know, is it's sort of like it's a cooperative effort, the DM and the players together, and it's an entire all-encompassing story. It is not a video game. It is not basically where you are going off of what is essentially a very set thing. It's a very set thing that it's that the DM can turn stuff around, that they have that control. And so sometimes you feel like the DMs, like, they don't want to kill the players because that ends the story, that ends the fun, that ends the whole cooperative storytelling idea. It takes away from that. But in this secret world setting, death is not necessarily death. So
Yeah.
you
You
can.
played with
So you,
much nicer
decisions you make.
DMs than I ever did.
what's that?
So you played with much nicer DMs than I ever did.
Yeah, probably.
The ones I played with were like, "Oh, you're level 2? Yeah. So you're about to get mauled to death by these dogs. Good luck climbing a tree. Roll
Oh,
dice."
and here comes a
Roll
rock
dexterity.
that's going to squish you.
Yeah. Like, you've stepped on a Lego. You have an infection. You died.
Yeah, peace out. You're
Next.
done.
Sorry, guys. Too bad for you. And just getting to this point was really nice. Finally, I feel like now I can actually hold up a book and go, I make games now. So for me, this has been about 6 years of getting into the industry, and this is like I said, our first major project. So now we have a whole list of projects all lined up that we wrote while we were waiting for stuff here to move along. Various
Mhm.
people were working on things like my Saints and Sinners setting has been worked on for years, or
Yeah.
we acquired another IP, Dominions of Steel, which is like a Mech Warrior-esque inspired setting. We just have a lot going on, but it's the Secret World is going to be something we're probably going to do. The goal is to do it realistically is to do at least a book a year, and maybe
Oh, wow. Okay.
that's kind of the goal. I mean, it'll be depending on response and how people, if the next Kickstarter goes off and only 200 people back it, that might slow it down a lot.
Yeah.
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 So we'll see how the Secret World does for Savage Worlds, because that's up next, probably next month.
Okay. And that's the next Kickstarter that's coming.
For that.
Yep. We had said we were going to do 2 systems. Savage Worlds was always my intended alternate system. We just believe 5e was going to give us the best chance to be successful and, fund the project. And one
I
second.
agree. Yep. I think that was a good call. Absolutely. To start with what is basically the most popular thing right now, strike while the iron is hot sort of situation. And then and if you pay attention to the Discord, you'll see that there's a lot of people going like, oh, 5e, and there's a lot of people who are basically not purists, I would say, but they are very passionate about other systems, thinking that basically 5e is not, the be all end all. And of course it doesn't have to be. It's not the be all end all.
Heresy.
But you could, it's not the only system. There's a whole bunch of systems out there. It's just right. You start with what is basically the most popular, and then you get all the niche people coming out of the woodwork that say, "Oh, but this system is, people who know a
Yeah.
lot more than me," or
Everybody
I know very
has their
little.
favorite system.
Yes.
Almost everyone who plays a role-playing game at one point in her time has played 5e. Well, not 5e, but Dungeons and Dragons of some sort.
Right.
Most people, not all, but most. And to decide to make your first project a niche game, that's fine if you don't want to make money. You can do most of the art yourself. You can write most of it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can make that work. I would say I'm an okay writer. I wouldn't sell my work without an editor, a strong editor going over my own work. Okay, I mean, I didn't write this book. I supervised the art. I had the
Yeah.
idea. I negotiated the contract. I brought on
Mhm.
Josh because he, writes for the Secret World or did,
Mhm.
and now he's writing for Dune.
He's back,
I brought,
baby.
yeah, he's full time back for Funcom.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And I hired, my wife who's plays this game. She's got like 3 level 50s. That's probably the main reason I knew anything about the game was more because of her. I played it quite a bit, but I didn't like play it through as much as a lot of other people. So I didn't want to make it me writing the book. I want to find the people who play the game, people who wrote the game, so that
Mm-hmm.
the book would reflect the lore. Even though we advanced it, it would still have the right feel of the setting. And of course, some people say, well, I don't think this is that. I mean, you know what? Everything is true. Your version of the secret world is completely right. Run it your way.
Yeah.
That's what a role playing game is. We had to make some
Or
decisions that
house
made
Exactly.
rules.
sense for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Like if you want your house rules to say that, death works exactly the same way that we see in the game, and that, that you just sort of respawn somewhere else just really quickly, and you could possibly even run back into the fight. You could make that happen. This is tabletop. Part of tabletop is that it's
Mhm.
open. It is whatever your imagination can come up with.
You could
So
respawn really quickly if you make that choice between light and dark.
in
Now,
the
that's one
in the rules that you
aspect.
have set, yeah.
Yeah,
That's one
sorry.
aspect I like, that you pretty much, instead of going with it, just doing it all by yourself, you kind of expanded out your reach to surround yourself with these different people that had the experience with the game, or with Joshua Deutsch. I keep messing up his name.
Deech, I think.
Deech.
Just say
Yeah.
Scriv.
Scriv.
Scrivener. Yeah.
Scrivenomancer is a lot
It's a
easier. Yeah.
Scrivenomancer, that's the name. That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
But it's just like surrounding yourself with all these people that have the experience where you personally didn't have, but made a product that would incorporate all of their experience as well, which I think was probably what helped also to speak out to the wide community as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all my years of being in management and sales training and other things taught me how to be collaborative.
Mhm.
And that's probably my strength that I bring to my own little company. Was I had ideas, but I didn't know how to do those ideas. Like, I want this. I think this would be cool. I have a vision for a company. But I always knew, said, but I don't know. I don't think I'm smarter than everyone. I know that I'm very much not. So I said, let me find people who are smarter than me in each of these areas. My partner, Ross Watson, he's written for the Star Wars role playing game.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
written, and he was oversaw the Edge of the Empire game that's out. Still finally going back into print. And he worked for a long time on Warhammer 40K. He's written for Savage Worlds and Rifts and such. And so he knows all these people. He knew writers. He knew Daryl Hardy, who Daryl Hardy had never played this game. Okay, he did a good chunk of writing in it. But what he did is he went to every wiki. He played the game. He went and sat down and played the game for a couple hours to at least get a feel for it. And then he talked to Josh, and then he read everything he could read. He watched all these videos on it. He just absorbed the lore. He writes for all sorts of people in the industry, and he doesn't just say, "Oh, I know I'll write it my way." He goes, "Let me look at the source material." So even the writer that wrote a chunk of it, who wasn't in it, just read everything he could and just watched hours of videos and played the game for several hours before he started writing for it.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Getting
think
into it,
we,
and getting that professionalism into the source material.
yeah, it's made a big difference in making it come out. And I think for those that say, they don't like 5e, it's fine. Not everyone does. I mean, I like to play 5e. I don't like to run 5e.
Okay.
It's a thing. I can play 5e and I can run 5e, but I don't like to run. I ran like 20 games for my daughter because she's 20 something years old and said, "Dad, I really want to play D&D." I said, "Okay, I'll run D&D for you." So that's that, but I won't run it for anyone else. That's my kid. So if you're not going to
Yeah.
outrank my kid. Um, but the Savage World system, I can run or play that in my sleep. And so
Interesting.
it's so much easier to put an encounter together. It's so much easier to figure out how you want to build something. And for those that have said this should be a classless thing, that Savage Worlds is that. So
I was going to ask, basically, I do not know anything about Savage Worlds. What is like the primary difference between 5e and Savage Worlds?
Savage Worlds is always,
In a
it
nutshell.
bills itself is fast, fun, and furious.
Okay.
And when you do combat in the game, a session of combat in D&D might take 2 hours. A
Mm-hmm.
strong, heavy, long combat in Savage Worlds might take 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh
and you'll do
wow.
all
Okay.
the same amount of action. The action economy in Savage Worlds is like, you can do up to 3 actions in a turn at your first level of a character. There's penalties for it, but you can do it.
Okay.
And it is a generic system that uses that base foundation so that you can just pick what they call edges and hindrances that influence the build of your character along with your skills that you pick. So you can
Okay.
build almost any type of character by picking these different edges, hindrances, and skills, and then hey, I'm going to be a fighter, so I'm going to take the sweep action because I can hit several characters at once. I'm going to make sure I put a few points in my fighting skill. But you can also be a spell casting fighter. It doesn't matter. The system lets you build everything,
Okay.
so it handles it pretty well. Um,
And I think with that
like
system, a lot of people would be interested in that because you don't have the time constraints of I gotta make sure I'm building a campaign that is like 2 days worth. We can do something that's within an hour or two or whatever. Just a small little get together and just play through that.
most of my Savage World sessions have what I like to when I run a session. I like to plan out what I call like the non-combat social encounter. That's usually like a smaller encounter. And then I have a small combat encounter that the players are just going to stomp all over the bad guys for usually. Let them feel badass.
Oh yeah.
Because you should
Yeah.
I had a team that would always beat us down. We never got to feel powerful. I'm like, well, that's boring. I'm supposed to be a hero. When do I get to feel like a hero? So I always have that section. Then you have the meat of the investigation, the story, the plot, whatever's supposed to go on, and then the big set piece combat at the end. And so, whereas D&D, you're only going to have one combat in a session, and I can do all that in a 4-hour arc every time, like clockwork, and have a full complete story every time, no problem. So
Okay. And it's mostly because that combat you said runs so much faster. Yeah, that's been one of the things of Dungeons and Dragons 5e from what I know about it, but even just Dungeons and Dragons in general, is that it's almost like time slows down. Like it's everything's going at normal speed, and then combat starts, and it's like it slows down, and so everything becomes very. And yeah, you could go through. Each round is supposed to be 6 seconds, but it takes depending on how many players you have or how many whatever, it could
yeah,
take you a good 5-10 minutes to get through a single round.
at
Um,
least. And it again, it depends on the players, of course. Some players are faster and are more prepared and more paying
right.
attention. Even a Savage Worlds comic can run more than 30 minutes if you have highly inexperienced new players as they're learning their stuff. Sure, it's not perfect. No, it's not. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but definitely in general, one is faster than the other.
Yeah. Okay. And I could see where that would be more beneficial because in this instance it acts more like the video game does because combats in video games are
It can be more intense a lot quicker.
right. Yeah.
The big difference is Savage Worlds uses an exploding dice mechanic. I don't know if you're familiar with that term at all.
Not at all. No.
So you're rolling your skill check, okay? And the
Okay.
average skill check in Savage Worlds is a 4 plus modifiers for many things. Like you're trying to shoot a bad guy, he's farther away. Oh, that's +2 because he's so far away. It's dark, it's
Hmm.
another +2. You need to hit a target number of 8. Well, you have a
Okay.
D6 skill. How can you possibly hit a target number of 8? If you roll a 6 on your 6-sider, it explodes. You roll it again. If you roll a 6 again, you roll it again. And you keep adding as long as they say ace or they roll the max on the dice, you can roll it again.
Oh, okay. Sort of like
So
the crit, if you will.
yeah, essentially like that. And that can also you can also do that with damage.
Hmm.
So it's a wound based system versus a hit point based system. You have 3 wounds for the average person, hero. Bad guys can go from 1 to whatever is appropriate depending on the type they are. So I could literally roll enough damage to one shot a dragon. It's very unlikely, but it's possible. There's ways to mitigate that and control that with the player, to make sure it doesn't happen. But in theory, in practice, you can sometimes hit a really crazy number and just knock something out right away. Also, it can also happen to the players. And again, because the players can't die, I don't have to worry about that holding that back. So I'll let I'm rolling behind the screen going, oh, that's going to kill the player. I'm like, no, let it happen. Let's see what happens when they make their choice of which way to go.
Yeah.
So
And that's what makes Secret World just in general, that idea that yeah, you can't really die, but
yeah,
I mean,
It's
it'll
not
take a
as
lot more than
punishing.
just right.
You
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
imprisoned for eternity. You can be tortured for eternity. I mean, you can lose your character if you eventually go to the one side or the other, to where your character essentially is not yours anymore. So your character doesn't die, but if you do make those choices enough, you lose your character. So there is a
Yeah.
chance of
I mean,
loss of the character.
yeah.
Um, I think the important things when you play the game, and something I'm looking to make sure I add to the Savage Worlds, as I've thought about it more, because we can still write into the book now if we want to, is to
Hmm.
really express that these players, generally speaking, depending on how the GM wants to write the story, is you're new. You haven't, but you're not alive and can't die for a long time. You should have attachments in the world and things that you care about. And you have your favorite cheeseburger joint. Do you want it to be blown up or destroyed?
That's
Um,
right.
Do you want to, your mom lives down the street. You're not always the orphan who has no one who cares about him. Your character
Hmm.
should have bonds to the world to make it important
Wait,
as to
wait,
why you're
wait.
fighting this.
Every hero isn't an orphan that has had their parents killed in some horrible
Horrible
accident
accident.
sometime.
And they have no friends, and they don't care about anything, and nothing can threaten them, because players will oftentimes try to insulate themselves from any chance of being threatened, how do you say that word? Cajoled,
Okay.
Cajoled.
pushed into,
Cajoled, yeah.
cajoled. I always say that word wrong. And pushed into a direction. And I think that's actually a mistake.
Hmm.
It's not fun. You think it is. Nothing can make me do anything. Great. Nothing can make you do anything. There's no reason for you to play this game.
Yeah. Be like,
So my character sits at home
Yeah.
and plays video games.
it's the
They don't have
idea
a
of
reason to do shit.
I'm sure you've heard of the actor, like the actor who goes like, what is my motivation? But that is exactly kind of it. That's sort of the point that you're making, is that the players have to have some motivation.
Okay, to be fair,
They really should.
that's why you kill the parents. The
That's
whole orphan thing is supposed to be the motivation,
Supposed
right?
to be, but they generally use as the excuse for, I want to go out and get revenge. Okay, and well,
Right.
there's
So you
nothing
get your
like
revenge. What's
against
next?
today. What's next? You have a plan?
Yeah.
you
And
get
of course,
more revenge.
every hero, like the origin story, is like, oh, they made their own suit, but it looks like it's like high tech. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get this getting material from Joanne and on your sewing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spider-Man soda suit looked like garbage at first, at least, but
Yeah.
he eventually became a master seamstress.
Along with
Seamstress,
crime
As you
fighting.
do. As you do.
as you do. It's fine.
This is how
Hey,
murder hobos are born. They create
I mean-
more murder hobos when they kill parents.
I mean, isn't that sort of what you do in video games too? Is there's a lot of games that is like, yeah, you can become a master seamstress eventually
if you want to, yes,
if you want
absolutely.
to. Yeah.
Put skill points into it. There's
Yeah.
the other thing that I like about what we did with the Savage Worlds is because a lot of people said they wanted to feel more like the video game. And doing 5e, we weren't going to rebuild the entire rule set of 5e. The whole point was to make it what people would recognize and could play
Yeah.
from 5e.
Mhm.
Because the way Savage Worlds is, it was very easy to build something that is reminiscent of. We did not, again, try to force mold the entire video game over the RPG. That's not going to ever be a good idea. Not for a mechanical build. But what we were able to do is we built the power cards for Savage Worlds, where if you have a pistol, here's the list of powers you can access.
Okay.
And if you
Yeah.
have your sword, here's your list of powers. You can we refer to them as conduits for your power. And so if you eventually, as you level up or advance your character, is the term in Savage Worlds, you can learn more conduits. So hey, I started off with the sword and the hammer, great, but now I want pistol, great. You can only ever access 2 conduits, or whichever ones you can hold in your hand at the same time, at
Which
once. So
is
if you want to switch it out,
the game.
there you go. That's
Yeah.
again kind of why we did that. You can switch up, say, well, I dropped my sword and I grabbed my pistol. And now you can access those powers. And we printed them on playing cards. I have a set I built to see how it would work, and they're about playing card sized. And so the character sheet for Savage Worlds has the archetype, like say we did the Punisher archetype. It already has the first 2 conduits that you start with printed on there. but then you can just lay a card over those, literally the size of the same exact size of the actual playing card, and go, oh, I switched my weapon. You can just read that when you switch.
Okay.
So it feels like you're swapping out your power slots on your toolbar a little bit,
Cool.
without trying too hard to make it exactly like a power slot bar across the board. So
Right.
It's like, now I've heard that D&D 5th edition is sort of like the most video game-ish version of D&D, and that's another reason why some people don't have a affinity for it, or some people are like, oh no, you need to go back and play like 3rd edition or something, you know, for whatever, that there's like, oh, 5th edition is too gamey in a sense.
So I've
But
heard that 5th edition is greatly streamlined and simplified. For some people, too simple. For other people, it's still too tactical and too miniatures based. But
yeah,
I've always heard 4th edition was the most video game like.
4th edition, okay.
That's what I'd always heard. But it really seemed like 4th edition tried to. Kender Mage is a good friend of mine. I'm gonna smack him around later.
Dr. Octopus, multi-arm character to use multiple conduits. I just want to know what happens if I hold like 7 swords at the same time and then drop them on somebody.
Well, if you drop
all
7
one
swords,
sword, right?
So it might hurt him, but I don't think it's.
If I'm holding all 7, can I activate all 7 and then just go?
No, we're not doing that.
I'm just gonna bear hug
a bunch of swords. Like, I have multiple
Taking
swords.
all my swords, putting them together with zip ties.
Fortunately, the mechanics of the game would even of just the basic game without all the stuff we did to, make it work for Secret World is would not allow that. You can take 3 actions in a game, and you and if your first, the simple point, if you do 3 actions, you're going to be at -4 to do your actions. So if you could do 8, you'd be at -16. You'd never succeed. So.
No exploding dice. I'll get there.
Yeah, it could happen. It's possible.
If anyone would find a way, it's Jimmy.
Yeah.
Enough.
Oh no, I'll lose forever. But one time
That's right.
in like a
The
6
time you
month
try
play
it,
session, I'll actually do something.
Like,
today's the day we're gonna play a 12-hour game session until it happens.
That's right. Love it. Love that determination.
That's how I normally play games. I just run at them and
You throw yourself
call
against
gives
them.
in.
Yeah.
I know
Play is relative.
we have the 3 the faction covers coming that I ordered them expedited shipping because obviously I want to deliver this to everyone as quickly as possible. And they should be here, I'm hoping, next week, but there's no guarantee. It could be the week thereafter. So that's about where we're looking for that. And once that happens, I'm going to start. I'm already going this week, and I'm sitting down and building out the how I can deliver the batches, when the time comes, and so that we can knock it out probably in about a 48-hour period of receiving the proofs. Where I can just sit down and on Saturday, Sunday, just making sure everyone gets their stuff. And I'm sure some people will still be missing. I'll have to get those individuals because no matter what, there's people who didn't know they had to have a Drive-Thru RPG account, even though we said that was how it was going to be delivered. I think they didn't understand that, which is fine. If they didn't know, they didn't know. So there's those things we'll have to fix, but we should pretty much have it out ASAP after that. So,
and the idea that basically that you know that in this sort of project, like I know that I have signed up and I've backed a lot of things on Kickstarter over the years, and there's just a bunch that I haven't checked up on in a long time. And who knows if it's like they asked all kinds of questions and I'm like, oh, maybe I should get around to actually answering them. It's a it's and so also you're dealing with people who don't or aren't paying the most attention to their Kickstarter emails.
Mm-hmm. I have been told by some people, this was a statement someone's told me, that some people turn off their emails and they don't like to, and they turn off their alerts for the what's the general message we do out, the announcements or whatever, the updates. Okay. And I'm like, okay, if you turn that off and you turn off your emails and then you say, but I didn't get the information.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
It's all on you.
Yeah.
We'll still fix it when you finally figure out that you didn't get the information. Yes, but please don't be mad at us because you chose not to get the information. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not going to say, hey, we're not going to give it to you because you just figured it out. I mean, but there's also some people that were, for example, that said, I didn't understand this was a print on demand project. We're not going to go back to all that again, but that was well shared several times. And we have changed the Kickstarter for Savage Worlds, has every single tier says it's a print on demand project. You will pay for this. You'll pay for printing and shipping after the project. So if they don't read it there in this case, then I'll be like, I really tried. The fact is going to already have it in there, and it's going to be underneath there's going to be a little asterisk under every visual of the package of what you can get. Like, you need to refer to this so you know what you're getting. I don't want anyone to feel like, it was never our intention to make anyone feel cheated. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We want everyone to feel, we want everyone to get a good product. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I think this product could be better, but that's because I will never be happy with the product I make.
Oh yeah, that's with
My
anything.
first one.
They say that that's universal. That's sort of like if you're striving for 100%, then you'll never necessarily be happy with it. So striving for more like 90% or 80%, something that's a little more, depending upon the project, something that's a little more
Well, I would say you
understandable.
strive for 100,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but with deadlines. So you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
well, this is
Look, if
we got it to 95. That's as good
What-
as it's gonna get by this date. Like,
What is it?
If I
It's,
had-
what is it? Time, money. What does it say? Time,
Quality?
money, quality. Yeah, pick two.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can have it. You can have it good, fast, or it was good,
Good and fast, but it
fast,
won't be
or
cheap.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
fast, or cheap.
That's what it is.
Pick two.
You can have it good and fast, but it won't be cheap. Or you can
Mhm.
have it good and cheap, but it won't be
Fast.
fast. And
you can have
Yeah.
it fast and cheap.
you can have it fast and cheap, but it won't be good.
Right.
That's debatable.
Well, I mean, if we had, if this was my only job, and everyone on the team, this was their only job, we had a budget from some large company that said, make this, and we could sit around working on this 40, 50 hours a week till we were happy with it. It still wouldn't be perfect, but yes, it would be better because we would have that kind of budget and time to put into it. And there are people who are like, well, I wish you had made custom spells. First of all, that was never part of the project's intention. We never
Mhm.
stated that it was.
You're like, we're not changing the spell book for D&D.
Right. That I understand why people want it. They wanted to make it more just like the game. I mean, we couldn't. There's no way that we would have built that rule set and done that with the time we had. I mean, even so, look how long it took as it was. If we had to build an entire custom rule setup, 3 years from now, you would have had that project, and we would have run out of money, and it wouldn't have been done because nobody's
But like
working on it
even
that long.
still, as DMs and whatnot, you could just turn around and say, okay, well, this power, like you could take the setup that you've already done and say have the bless, something like that, like a classic
Yeah.
D&D spell, bless. You could just say instead that is just like as a DM you could be like, that's Gaia's blessing, does the same exact stuff as the bless spell essentially, but that's also depending upon how comfortable players are with DMs are with changing their own stuff around or doing that. Again, you can do that. You could just change the name of stuff. It doesn't matter. The effect is exactly the same, and it's the effects that are all balanced.
So, interesting enough, two things. Like, one, I get where exactly what you said is true.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's good game design to sell a product and say to the people, I'm not saying you're wrong. This is what you can do at home, and every GM can and should do.
Mhm.
It's not good on the creator's part to say, if you don't like it, that's how you can fix it. For us, we should try and make something that fills the need instead of saying, hey, by the way, we made a product, but you're going to have to do most of the work at home to make it work the way you want it to.
Right, yeah.
That being said, we said this is what we're making. This is why we're doing it this way, and this is what we can put the time into.
Mhm.
Interesting enough, on the other hand, though, Savage Worlds actually has the way you get powers. It specifically says you have to give them a trapping or label how they look and work in your world. The damage is the same. I have a power called Bolt. I don't. Savage Worlds has a power called Bolt. The mage shoots a bolt at an enemy. It could be an ice bolt. It can be a fire bolt. It can be a kinetic energy bolt. You as
Fireball.
the player, fireball. Did I stutter? I cast fireball. It's my wife's favorite spell if she plays that. I said, "You're gonna really cast fireball?" She's like, "Did I stutter?" She's gonna blast with a fireball.
Point of fact. Point of fact. The fireball spell is called fireball in Secret World, so there
See,
is
there's
no need
perfect.
to rename that
Don't need to
particular
read
one.
that one.
Yeah.
But Savage World says you have to pick the trapping. The damage is still 3d6 or 2d6 for the attack, whatever it is. But it matters if you say it's ice bolt, because then it stays that. And then if you attack a creature who's immune to cold, that creature may be immune to it.
Right.
But you have to define it. What we did because it's the Secret World, we wanted to try to get it some of the flavors. We defined the trappings for the powers. Obviously, you can change that, and if you want. But we tried to. We built the archetypes. We said, what sounds about right? Well, the elemental's got some fire powers because it seems fitting, or whatever's appropriate. The blood magic comes out with a sickly green light because that just sounded cool, and it gives it a certain look. We didn't try to match colors to the video game. That's insane. That's not going to happen.
No.
Every description like that, because they have light effects and crazy stuff. But we tried to give a theme to those powers, so again, it feels like it matches. Doing that with D&D would be completely a rewrite. Is this a GM discussion stream?
Yes.
I think Goth there came in a little later. Goth, we are talking with Brandon from Star Anvil Studios. In case anyone else is coming a little later, we're talking with Brandon from Star Anvil Studios, who is releasing the Secret World tabletop RPG, and so we're discussing all the intricacies of that. And they have just released the final PDF to all Kickstarter backers. So now,
Look at that.
if you are a backer,
On screen.
there you go. Oh
There
my
we go.
gosh, so pretty, so pretty.
Holy moly! That is a thick book. I like it.
It is, and you
Wait,
could kill
you
someone with that
open
book.
to the dragon? Nice.
Not on purpose.
No,
we open
that's
to the
how dragons
Templars
roll.
better.
That's how dragons roll.
Chaotically, I open to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Same price. This book, final price on Drive-Thru RPG, I haven't 100% decided on yet, because I got to look at the final cost. It's probably
It is 386 pages.
yeah, we got to look, because in
$1 a page.
Drive-Thru RPG knocks out a good 35% off of whatever we make, and so we also have to pay Funcom off of what we make. So we're making less than half of whatever, and we're not making the money for printing. That doesn't come to us. So we got to market to a price. I think we're going to be looking at, I don't know, it's going to be more. It's going to be around 50 or more. We'll have a final price between 50 and 60.
I feel like that's fair, though. That seems like a fair price
for a almost 400-page book. That you use other, like, to say that you need no other book is true. You don't need any other book to play.
Yeah.
But would you want other books to play? Well, sure. The amount of monsters we got in here is a good chunk. I mean, yeah, there's a good.
Well, you want the bestiary, and
you might want a bestiary, like you might
monster
want
cards,
to
power cards, yeah.
Because it's D&D, you might use other classes from other books they have and say that seems to fit the Secret World for me, and they may use that. So yeah, it's around there. Yeah. D&D did raise their books. They raised their books to $60 going forward. So we're still in the price range. So we're not. If you didn't know that, new D&D books are not going to be 50 anymore, guys. Are going to be 60 because printing has gone up that much in cost. So
everything's
strangely enough,
fine. Yeah.
Them raising their price is actually good for the smaller companies, because the smaller companies always feel like we can't raise our price above the price of the big company, because they're like, well, you're a small company, you're charged as much as Wizards of the Coast. How dare you?
Right.
What do I get for that money?
Yeah, but that's obviously backwards thinking, right? Because the
it is
company can afford to soak it, right? They're moving volume.
I was gonna say they save on the printing, they save on all that stuff by basically having all their contracts with their distributors or suppliers, blah blah blah.
They have an issue where they don't have enough printers to print all their books all at once, which is part of why they're breaking up the printing runs for players, GM, and bestiary over more time.
Interesting. Okay.
They print at such a. I have an idea of like what books can get down to because there's a couple websites you can look at. They're probably printing books at a cost of between $4 to $6 a book tops.
Okay.
Print
Yeah.
That's print cost. I mean, they still got delivery and they've still got distribution, other stuff involved in their cost, I'm sure, but they're not hurting for money.
No.
They're selling a book for 60, and it's probably cost them like $10 or $12 to get the whole thing done,
Yeah.
and they're selling 1,000,000 books, and I sold 1,900 books. So
No, absolutely.
It
Yeah.
kind of
So
equals
far.
out.
So
yeah,
far,
it's same.
Yeah, no, I remember I worked for Barnes and Noble in the past, and yeah, you learn so much about how book sales actually work and how the book industry works. And one of the most surprising one was if a book is on your shelves and it doesn't sell, that for the bigger books, for like the hard copy books, you would send them back to the distributor. You'd be like, this
Mhm.
didn't sell, here you go, you can have the big books back. But the big books have such a low overhead that a hardcover book, like Barnes and Noble made like almost nothing off of those hardcover books. They didn't really care. They would always have them, but they didn't really care if you bought the hardcover books. It was the paperbacks. It's the paperbacks, and it was the ones that they printed themselves that were always the big money makers. And
Mhm.
so even like they would have like a whole bunch of paperbacks, and they're like, "Oh, send these back to the distributor," and they're like, "Don't even bother mailing them because they're so cheap to print."
Mhm.
That it was the idea of when a book doesn't sell, you rip off the cover and just send them back the cover.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah,
Mm.
like you start learning all this stuff about the how printing industries work and whatnot. You're like, this is not anywhere near what I would expect it to be.
It's a bit
And
insane.
so, yeah, it's sort of on that same level with these books as well. Kind of. I feel like these books are a little different. Like,
Well,
you know.
first of all, with these books, if we want to transition to in the future, and I don't know when that will happen. If we depends on the level of success we have as we go forward into doing print runs.
Mhm.
And we already have a publisher that we want to work with, that we've talked to, that we can work with, and part of the reason for doing two different Kickstarters instead of trying to do like one for Savage Worlds and for this is the Savage
Mhm.
Worlds book obviously cost us less to make. It's already
Mhm.
written. The lore doesn't change.
Mhm.
We
Right,
use
yeah.
a lot
Oh,
of the
that's good. Yeah.
same trade dress, same art. When we make money on this, we can use that to apply towards future projects and stuff. So, um, yes,
God's asking a
that is true.
question.
We set this up where you are playing. Yeah, you're instead of picking your race as D&D does, you're picking your faction. That's more that has more influence, and that makes sense to break it down that way because that's the most important choice you make pretty much as a character, other than your class or your archetype or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, is your faction, and then how you experience the game tactically, basically. Because let's face it, people talk a lot about how amazing the puzzles and stuff in this game are, but there's a whole lot of killing too. So
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
So that's one of your primary interactions with the game. So
Mhm. I mean, yeah, that's sort of combat is the way things go in like a grand majority of video games. Um
I did do a
so
pacifist playthrough of the game.
you did. You can. Yeah, it's possible.
good luck with that. I would not try to do that.
I know I
There's
did
Jimmy
it.
too
would.
much.
Jimmy has.
I'm
I
not
did.
saying.
I
I'm saying
did.
enjoy is all I'm saying. I would.
Yes.
I will say a funny thing I found out during that run is that the dance emotes don't get canceled by getting hit. So I was able to dance during most of the fights.
That's amazing, actually.
So like when I was fighting Mara, the vampire queen, I was just dancing around and it looked like my character was like slapping her in the face. I was doing like the hand movements while just reflecting damage back. That part was pretty good.
Wow. It's a new archetype we have to come up with, the pacifist dancing
If you
archetype.
if you haven't met Jimmy, Jimmy here is no, you've met Jimmy, but
Yeah,
if you
you've
didn't
been on
know,
before.
met.
Yes, Jimmy is sort of known for coming up with the most imaginative ways to play Secret World Legends. Just like what playthrough are you going through now, Jimmy?
Lights out.
Yes.
Fox made me a mod, so all the lighting in the game, all the normal lighting in the game is off.
Ugh.
So I think certain spotlights and certain things still illuminate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly using the ground AoE effect, weapon effects as like a sort of a sonar. Like it's like the AoE from like smacking the ground effect goes out and like hits the walls and goes up, so I can kind of see what's going on.
So you're basically you're playing in almost total darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would not be a way I would try to experience the game.
Exactly. Yes.
Well,
I'm already colorblind. I'm not
in
making
the
it harder
run-
on me than it is.
In the run prior, like a couple months ago, I did Death Race, where we had a mod that made me always be running, and then if I stood still, after 10 seconds, I would die. So,
Oh wow.
so during that, I was in the Egyptian part, like under the pyramid, where you're running around with a torch, and I somehow dropped the torch, but I was running and couldn't like stop moving. So I just started spamming my ability to like sort of see the walls. And that's what made me think of, and literally like I think last week I was like, remember, he's like, you know what? That'd be a cool way to just do the game. And then I hit up Fox and was like, hey, so do you think you can make me a mod that like just gets rid
Just
of the
turns
lighting?
everything off.
And then here we are.
I'm glad that Fox is there too for your
Fox is my
your mod
enabler.
whims. Yeah, he's your enabler.
So someone asked if the Phoenicians or Orochi factions are choices to play as far as your starting factions. No, they're not. And that's simply because, again, room in the book and time
Bless
to
you.
build all that. They said bless you,
Bless
honey. It's my wife. She didn't hear. She's got her headphones on. Her allergies are killing her. So yeah, we couldn't do we didn't want to try and cover everything in one book. It's already just so big. People are like, are you going to have combat rules for vehicles? Well, as cool as that might be for some people, how many times has vehicle combat been important to you in the Secret World so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially
Not
when
that
as a bee, you can pretty much go anywhere at any time. You don't need to like hop on a plane.
And even if that were
So,
D&D, like
I
that's
guess-
not a book that you find in the original, set. That's a
Mhm.
separate book you purchase,
Yeah, that would be. It's like anything. Even the D&D book has like rules for ship combats in a separate book. Because you can only put so much in one book. I mean, this is a huge book which has a lot of stuff. It's the foundation to build on, and same thing with the Savage Worlds book will be for the Savage Worlds version. From there, we can expand to build the world, add cool things. I think the only thing I feel like we missed out on for the Savage Worlds book, looking back at it, and it's not done, so I'm going to see if I can fit this in there, is using some kind of talisman or something to, create armor for your character. Because you're not really walking around in full plate armor or anything in this game. It's not a thing. So there's a couple little tweaks I'm trying to get in there. We have time to work on it. We've got the Savage Worlds version, I think, is like 85% done already.
Okay.
That actually reminds me, like that was one of the things I always found interesting about Secret World, even from the beginning, is most video games you have to deal with I found a piece of armor and it's better, but it's ugly as sin and I don't want to use it. And then more modern games will have like, well, you can just uncheck it so it doesn't show.
Right.
Show,
or you can make some kind of mod so like you can use that piece but it looks like something else.
Right.
Yes.
Whereas you have your cosmetic appearance versus your actual armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Secret World was like, oh no, these are talismans. It's not armor. You have a necklace and a ring and a bracelet and a belt. Like, right? Like you can wear whatever the hell you want because that's not where the empowerment's coming from. The empowerment's coming from this array of like trinkets or you just could be flare buttons on your vest. It doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
They're imbued with something.
Isn't like one of the effigies that you could have basically like a cell phone cable wrapped around like
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
just
think you're thinking of
headphones.
the elemental
Yeah.
focus.
yeah, an
Yeah,
elemental
one
focus.
of the
That's
LE
right. Yeah,
focuses is like a USB cable looking thing.
yeah.
Just got a piece of USB cable on my belt. Lets me channel
Just gonna
fireball
wrap it
spells.
around this piece of this hand grip thing, and there you go. That's my focus. Um.
You don't need
Uh.
to have all blues before Egypt. It might be easier for you. It's certainly not necessary. Sam,
I mean, this is
does
also
that
coming from
answer?
you.
Well, I'm just look. You don't you don't need anything to beat the game. To beat the story of
Exactly.
the game, you can do it with like literally nothing. It just
Yeah.
takes some perseverance.
Hmm.
Um, I would say normal players probably need gear. um, but yeah, you
No.
don't need
No.
to be in all
Yeah. You
blues
don't have
for
to.
Egypt.
Yeah. Um.
That's
It would
also another
help though
thing
to
with
have the right pieces and probably like the right passives and glyphs. Like that's probably more important than having all of a certain color, like upgrade. What's more important is having your glyph layout correct and passives, upgrading the right passives.
Now, Brandon, what do you think of because this thought keeps coming to mind, and that is the idea that yes, players are expecting like because Secret World is so like has such a passionate fan base to it, and because Secret World has that we're basically in the game itself we're sort of clamoring for new content.
Mhm.
So we tend to latch on to projects of people who are like, I'm creating something for the game. It's like that's amazing. That's amazing. You're writing novels for the game. That's great. You're writing tabletop for the game. That's amazing. And so we sort of latch on to these projects. Um, but our passionate tends to be like people want it the way that they want it. You know, like
Mhm.
people want it a very specific way, and what's in their head.
Right.
And so, have you encountered like a whole bunch of issues with people basically like this isn't what I imagined it to be. This isn't like like if I was going to create a tabletop for it, that like this isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I did. Have you encountered a lot of that pushback?
I've had a fair share of people who were expressed their different opinions of how things should be done. Some more vehemently than others. Um, some were polite and just said, "I don't like it." Some were like, "This is trash."
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They're right as far as they're concerned, and that's all that matters. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I get it. It's not what they wanted, but I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but then you could make it yourself. And I don't mean
Mm-hmm.
that in a rude way. I mean, like, I can only make what I can make. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Like this is
um,
in effect a piece of art. This is, I mean it's a
well,
game and this that, but I mean, well, games are
take
art, but in a way,
take
this
the
is like
system.
your
Sorry,
art.
yeah. Take the systems for example.
Mm-hmm.
Dungeons and Dragons, Savage Worlds, Powered by the Apocalypse, Cipher, Cephas Engine, 2D20. I mean, any other number of systems you can name. OpenD6, lots of other systems that exist out there. There's a whole lot more than I just named. And every one of those systems is one that some person thinks would be perfect for this game.
Mm-hmm.
And every person is right as far as they're concerned.
Yes.
Um, and for them, they can take the lore apart and say, hey, now I have this lore in a written section. I mostly agree with your lore. There's a foundation to build from. Because I can't do 12 systems. Even 2 is a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, there have been people who aren't happy with it, or like I said, one guy's or woman, I don't know, it was just whatever the name was on the email came through said or the comment was, they really wish we had done custom spells, and I've heard that more than once. And I get it. It's just not practical. Um, it's the amount of money and time it takes to write rules I mean, the spells in this game already exist. They've already been tested.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to play test all the rules and start from scratch, build a system from scratch, I mean, we could have done a whole bunch more play testing, and 3-4 years from now, the book will be done.
Yeah.
So
And then you will
it's
have them
just,
complaints like, "Oh, why is it taking so long?" Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's always good, cheap, or fast.
Always
Pick one.
something.
Yeah.
Pick
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I get that they're not happy with some things, and I'm
hmm
totally I can understand where they're coming from up to the point where they're rude. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
if you express to me, I wish you would have done this, I think it would be better, that's fine. If you start being insulting or attacking someone personally, that's when I just stop listening because I'm sorry I can't help you there if you're just gonna be rude. I mean, again, you could tell me you don't like what I made. That's fine. It's
hmm
personal choice.
It's
See,
an
I
opinion.
I would
Yeah.
respect
think
that. I respect that.
hmm
even if you want it for a different system, right? Like for me personally, I think you would still want the book just because you would then have like source material, like
Yes.
yourself,
Yeah.
to then do something with. Because there's a large difference between staring at a blank page and trying to make something versus getting something that you can now see what you want different and do it differently. So
hmm
even if I liked some other system, right?
Mm-hmm.
I and wanted to run uh, a campaign in a different system, I probably would get the book just to have the source material to be like,
hmm
okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this part differently in this system,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you just bridge it. And I've known some friends that were, um, role playing like games, tabletop games, like a lot longer than me. And I think they've got like a library of stuff. And I
hmm
swear to
Oh
God,
yeah.
some of those books they either have just for the setting or
Mm-hmm.
just for the rule set, or you know what I mean, like they they may play like two or three of them in a given year, but it's a resource, right? You're like,
hmm
oh,
Yes.
I'm going to pull from this. So
What?
I don't know. I think if someone genuinely is like, oh, I don't want it because it's useless if it's not the system, I'm sorry, you're kind of an idiot. Like,
So you see these bookshelves behind me here? You can't see all of them, but there's about three book sets back there like that.
Okay.
Um, they have 4 shelves in there and they're not open, but there's about I don't know 600 books back there. That's not that many, maybe. Let's see, 20 a shelf, 4 shelves, 80. There's like 350 books back there. I don't get to play all those books, but I mean, my Star Wars rule set is amazing. There's a game by Free League called Coriolis. I know they're doing a Kickstarter for it right now. Neat system, all D6 based. Um, I read through it and go, oh, it's space based. I like it. I'm interested. Let me see what they did. And they had this thing where when you make your characters, you design your crew, like what your player, because you get a spaceship. What are you going to do together?
Mhm.
I said that's a neat idea. And I'm doing my Saints and Sinners games. I said that's a neat way to get the group to pick out what they're going to be. It's kind of like picking a faction. It gives you a
Yeah.
purpose. And so
sure.
you read through these other games and you go, that's a neat idea. How does it apply to the rule set or the setting that I'm doing in? How do I make that work?
hmm
And so it gives you, for especially if you're creating games, I can't think of everything on my own. So many smarter people have already done dozens of things more than me. So I'm picking from that. So a lot of people are going to pick up this 5e book and go, hey, wow, that's a nice big chunky book. I'll show it off again there. That
Love
way.
No, that is a nice picture.
It is. It is a
So
lovely book.
they
That's
can
why.
look at
Yeah.
the
What I.
monsters.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. My bad. Go ahead.
No, so they can look at the monsters and say, hey, I want those monsters in my game. Well, this monster has this toughness in this game. That's about equal to that. And they can kind of start to get a gauge where they build it from. Or they can look at the setting and go, okay, well, we got all the setting material I want in here, even if they don't use it all. So yeah, they can use it as a reference for sure. For some people, that'll be exactly what they use it for. They've already said so.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, like that's like the I don't know, sort of adult thing to to do is realize that probably nothing's ever gonna be exactly what you envision in your head, but like it's no like it's still better than not having
It's still.
anything.
It's still. Yes. I mean, you'll
And
see that a lot
this
in.
source material always has a value.
Mm-hmm.
You'll
And
see that a
I'm just
lot
saying
in
from
like
my
the.
experience
Oh,
with
sorry.
like hardcore tabletop people, like even if they're complaining, they probably would still buy the book because you
Well,
just like, oh, I'm just gonna absorb this and add it to the collection
so many
of
people will
things.
complain about something but then still buy it because they still want it. They just want it to be their way, and now they own it, they have the right to complain about it because they paid for it.
I'm just
I
thinking
don't,
that's a
no,
very
I don't even
nerd
want a
thing.
copy. I just want to pay you money so I can complain.
I get this up there. Here's my. This is for the Savage Worlds. Let's see if I can do that right.
Oh, cool.
Now,
That's
yeah,
that's the Benny.
you showed that picture, but what is that?
So it's a meta currency in the game. You can say, oh, "I got hit for damage, and I don't want to take that damage." You get 3 to start with, and as you play the game, you can earn more. You could say, "Well, that didn't really happen. I'm going to spend a Benny and roll my dice and see if that I didn't get hit for that damage." Or you can say, "You know, it'd be really cool. I want to break into that door, and you're in a warehouse. I want to use a crowbar. Is there a crowbar laying around?" And GM says, "Well, there's not, but there can be." Okay, I'll spend a Benny. There was. It was always there. It
Okay.
gives you
All
some
right.
influence over the narrative to a degree. And it can also be spent to gain more power points. If you say, like, my character reaches down deep and still wants to cast that spell, even though I'm out of power points, you can spend one of your bennies. So
I
Okay.
sacrifice my liver.
Because you sent the picture, and at first I thought, are those drink coasters? Is the first thing that popped to mind, and I was
gosh,
like,
get bigger ones and do that. No,
now
I
you're
use
thought
the
it was a
dragon
pog.
drink coasters.
You're making
I
coasters
thought
now.
it was a pog.
Oh, Pogs,
It's
yeah.
about the size of a pog.
That's what kind of like size wise. I don't know what size cups Mikey's using.
Yeah,
Shot
shot
glasses.
glasses. Don't ask. Yeah. 1, 2. So yeah, these.
been a
And I
rough
did
week.
these with the dragon and dragons. No, dragon.
Dragons.
Oh no.
Dragons. No, the dragon, the Templar, and the Illuminati. I have these so that just when we're playing it at the table at the convention, it just helps thematically do it. They don't have to have any pattern on them at all. It just looks cool to have.
Yeah,
the big
no,
two
Yeah,
totally.
no,
factions
that
on 'em.
is cool though.
Mhm.
So, ordered the dice too, but they're not here yet, so we'll see if they show up in time.
So,
And go ahead.
oh no,
I was just gonna say we also have what's called a conviction token in Savage Worlds, and that's
okay.
like it's the ultimate version of these. And for that, I ordered these little brass honeycombs. So
Oh my gosh,
Ooh, nice.
can we see them? Do you have one?
they haven't showed up yet.
Ah,
They'll be here soon.
a little brass honeycomb.
Soon,
Yeah.
TM.
I love the
Soon. Definitely trademarked.
idea. That's been trademarked for a while. By Funcom. So so right now we
Pixels
have
software.
currently we have the final PDF has been put out, and that's been given to all backers. So what is next in line for like what should we expect a little further down the road? We have the final PDF in hand. What is coming next?
Next thing is gonna be delivery of everything
Just
all
everything.
at once.
Okay.
Yeah. That's,
Okay.
to constantly keep sending out and then have people say what got missed and then have to answer 100 emails.
Mhm.
For those that aren't getting it for whatever reason, that would just be it would just bog it down. So the best thing for me to do is going to be get everything,
Mhm.
send it all out, and then fix whoever didn't get it. And that way I'm not doing this for the next 3 months because I can't. we do have to do other products and we have to keep going.
Yeah.
Just can't. So I mean, I want to get it delivered. Plus, everyone needs to get their stuff, and the fastest way to do that is to do a major delivery, get it all done, and then fix whoever got missed for whatever technical reason, and be done with it, so that everyone has their stuff. And that's going to be the most efficient way to do it. Fixing every single person individually over time, at the beginning before I've done the major delivery, which might fix a lot of problems, would just bog me down for the next. I don't know. I wouldn't sleep for the next 2 weeks like I did for the first week and a half of the Kickstarter.
No, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was learning how to deal with the negativity that came from some people for the first Kickstarter, and I was just up all night checking my messages and trying to make it work. Now I've just learned to
Tune it out.
Woosah.
Completely ignore them.
Well, not that either, but
Not
there's
completely
legitimate-
either. Yeah.
Not
Well, no, you do a
completely.
quick perusal. It's like, yeah, okay.
Serenity now.
Yeah.
The idea
Well,
that even in some people's harshest criticism, there is still nuggets of okay, I could see,
Yeah.
sort of taking someone's words and shifting them around, imagining that they are said in a much more polite term or a much more polite way, and
I try really hard.
No, some people are just assholes.
I didn't say that.
Well, it's the
No, I said
internet.
that.
So
I mean, we know, no one is surprised by this fact. Okay.
Some people
all
are
right.
less than kind.
Yeah.
Um, I just want I just the biggest thing I think if people would understand, like, I don't expect people to say whatever you do is okay because you're new, but I am new. I've been at this for about 5 years now, learned a lot. We've done one, two, three, did a small like 5-page thing. Then I did a couple 30-page things, and then we did this, and
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot. Like I think part of the problem might be is that with the backer kit, I don't think we included a drop-down menu to say what's your email for Drive-Thru RPG, and so I think that might be where we may not. I got some of the emails that we need to get.
Mm-hmm.
So in the next one, there's going to be a drop-down. This is a POD delivery project through Drive-Thru RPG. If you don't have an account, go make one. Then come back and answer this with the email you want this sent to. I mean, that's just going to be done so that we can make sure we get it to people. I think that's part of the problem. But I didn't know that going into it.
Yeah.
And so if we can resolve those things and make it better each time we go forward, it'll get simpler and it'll be better delivery. One neat thing to bring up about that reminds me. So for the Savage Worlds one, I'll give you one of the ideas. One of the things we want to do is some people like to just contribute a little bit of money. They don't want to back the whole project. They can't buy it. They want to throw $5 at you or whatever. We want to give people something for that, though. You can just get your name in the book for $5. Typical thing you do in these Kickstarters. We're actually going to provide it, and again, I have to make sure I can do this in the backer kit the way I think I can. But part of the drop-down menu will be which faction do you support for that $5 and above. So we're going to get a vote from whoever backs the next project on, do you support the Illuminati, the Dragon, the Templar, and then we're going to lump all their names into the groups and see who has the most.
Well, you know
And,
who's going to win. It's going to be the Illuminati.
well, maybe I'll skew the results. No, I can't do that.
I was gonna say I would actually say
You'll know by
it
the
would have
name
been
count.
my guess is Templar, to be honest. But
They're the most organized.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's been a learning curve, and I hope that each project we do gets better. I mean, I know what I want to do. I think I'm changing my mind a little bit about what I want to do for the next book. I'm thinking about doing a bunch of adventures, or what they call a plot point campaign for Savage Worlds or whatever. Some small adventures, big adventures, and a bestiary. Only because you have the base book. A lot of people don't know how to write adventures. They can run them, but they don't know how to make them. They'd rather run something written. And I think we could really explore and add to the world through these different adventures, different areas, different locations, and give a whole bunch more creatures and things to fight, so that it gives you more of the toolkit to play the game, and then keep expanding the world and the locations. But we'll decide what's going to work best between now and the next book, which the next book will not be until next year sometime. So soon. But the next one will be, if things go well with this, the next book will probably be written before we even do the Kickstarter. So there will not be pay us now so we can write it, which we had to do. We didn't have any foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the next one will be, it'll be written in. We'll already have we already have a trade dress design, the way the graphics look in the book. So that saves time and money too. So it'll really just come down to, write this stuff out. If we do a book that's 150 pages, is also a third of the work that went into this. So let me see. Yeah. That guy, he's been around, annoyed me. I mean, being my friend for the last, I don't know what, 5-6 years for Kender Mage. He saw my stuff for Saints and Sinners, is where he got latched on to our group, and he's kind of been a fan of that ever since. But he's been around with me for a while, along with another couple of guys that have been around since we started this crazy stuff.
Nice.
He's like I like to call a good sucker. I mean, a good friend.
They're the best kind.
Yeah.
Met
him once at a convention in Wichita.
A faithful audience.
Yes. Well, it looks like it's the witching hour for me, and I've talked a lot, so I hope I didn't overwhelm you guys or anything with all my
No,
talk.
you didn't.
Oh gosh, no. If it weren't anything, thank you for coming on. We are always happy to talk about any projects relating to Secret World, but especially this one because it's so cool. Like I was looking through the the PDF because I said it's you can download it, you can go through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's done. going through all the artwork, going into the back. But I got to the part in the very very back. It's got all the listing of all the backers and all the backers' names that they wanted to put down. And I was like, man, there's some people who was like, oh, my name is Chester Willingham, Arthur, the White Knight of Denver. I don't know, like, you know, they just the name that they've picked is like 5 or 6 different names in a row with like the one in quotes, and then and like, and here I just chose Ocho, and I'm like, that is, I've got like the smallest name possible.
We'll totally give you the option in the Savage Worlds book to put a bigger name in it if you want to. There you go.
Right, that's right.
There you go.
Ocho's out here saving money on ink. Right?
That's right. That's what I'm doing.
Thank you.
I was like, everyone, because I was like, my name's got to be there somewhere. And yeah, no, sure enough, I found it. Of course, it's in there. But it's just like, I don't know, squeezed between like 2 other like giant names. Like,
well, that's the thing. It's like, because your name is so small, you can quickly look through and say, oh, boom, there it is, because it's
that
like,
word's
take
big.
less
It can't
space.
be my name. Highlight your name. All right, guys. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
I might be.
It always is, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Oh, of course. Thank you for
always,
coming by.
always
Thanks
a
for
pleasure
coming.
to have you. Thank you very much, Brandon from Star Anvil Studios, coming out with the tabletop RPG 5th edition for Secret World, and also coming out with a Kickstarter up and coming for Savage Worlds for Secret World as well. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Brandon. Much appreciated. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and we hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a good one.
Take it
The
easy.
time is now 11:11.
Works out perfectly like that.
No, like
so-
legitimately, I need to get that on a soundboard